Oh, wow. White people, right? Literally 10, 9, 8, 7. Hello! My name is Allister Banks, and the gentleman next to me is Ben Toms. Welcome to our Steel Cage Deathmatch slash Hell in a Cage slash, I have another title about me. I've had a pretty good year. I got promoted to technical lead. Yeah, he's here too, don't worry, he'll speak in a second. I got Peter Principal promoted. You know what Peter Principal is? It's where you're promoted past the level of your competence. To technical lead of the Apple support organization for Montefiore Information Technology / Montefiore Medical Center. We have about 25,000 employees, 8,000 iOS devices, but very few Macs, but still, that might change. 8,000 devices use ActiveSync to check mail, is more like it, but this year I had the honor of writing a book with Charles Edge. I had an article in MacTech magazine accepted to be published, and I had my first pull request in Monkey merged yesterday. So it's been a pretty good year. And I celebrated my 15th wedding anniversary. I don't know, like, it's a pretty good year, you know? You gotta enjoy those things. But handing it over.
Thank you. Okay, so if you've been keeping up with me, you know I've had a pretty bad year. So thanks for that. You might know me as Matt Mule, the blog doing the donkey road to make you a smart ass. I'm one of the deans of JAMF Nation, the only guy from outside the US who is. I'm also a mod on IRC for the IS-10 server and JAMF Nation, and an admin on the Slack MacAdmins channel. I'm a co-founder of the London Apple Admins group with Graham Gilbert, the man who has the distinct title of bringing FAF to the US. That's all you're asking. If you missed it, this is what the word FAF means. Okay?
Examples.
It's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. So,
taught America how to FAF.
So this year I've also been trying to go for the title of Most Breakable Admin. In January I was mugged in New York and they broke my ankle, and pink cast because why not?
And nothing to do with it.
3 months later, I went on holiday, fell down those stairs and broke the other foot. And the outpouring from the community have been awesome. Some parts from Elliot, the Lindy Group, with a lovely card. Other people.
It's really good.
So, I've also got a bit of an issue with my voice, which seems to be okay at the moment, but I've been trying to keep it well lubricated. As you might have seen on Tuesday night, whatever it was. So if there's anything that doesn't come across particularly well, maybe it's the link I'm using, you just shout out, "You what, mate?"
I don't do that all that often. Way after I put in the session proposal, I figured out that the actual name is a little bit long. As marketing terms wise, it was a little bit long in the tooth. It should have been Phosphorus then. Fight! You'll get used to this cadence as this round has been set up, where I'll shoot my mouth off first, then Ben will try to refute my unassailable logic. He kind of is like the closing arguments in a trial. The defense gets that, considering, you know, they're on the ropes here as the last thing the audience hears. My intention is to put his way of doing things and the vendors that he represents for the purposes of this session on the defensive, since they've made that wonderful Faustian bargain called capitalism, in which they've exchanged money for goods and services. Anyway, it is my thesis that open source and free tools actually do a better job, are a better deal, are worth it overall. And really, like, it's not so much a debate, it's not really an argument.
He came out punching, didn't he, right? Okay. So I'm talking about paid-for solutions. I want to get the point across that, you know, by using one of these solutions, you're not burying your head in the sand. You know, by using these products, it's not making a deal with the devil. And the timing on that image could have been better, probably. I'm going to be talking about the Casper Suite, because that's the product that I've used. For 13 years now, I've been a MacAdmin. For the past 7, I've used Casper. And I went from ARD to Casper. So you can imagine it was quite a big event. And I pretty much stayed just to using the apps within the suite. So I want to try and show a number of use cases where you could use the apps that do make up the suite to meet most of the needs that we have within the lifecycle management space of the MacAdmin.
And to set down the rules, 5 rounds, winner takes some. We're talking about lifecycle management in general. We've put a table on that worksheet down here at this URL. If you cared to all hit Dropbox right now, maybe I'm gonna go over the limit, I don't know, maybe not. You can keep track possibly of the wins of each round. You can see some of the products that I'll be discussing, and everything is just a link to JAMF on the other side of that second column.
There may have been some kind of editor that kind of wrote it in a certain way.
Who compended all of these slides and made that worksheet? Yeah, I'm not sure who that was. Yeah, so everybody who wants that has downloaded it. Okay, we've come up with these 5 sections. Image creation. Yes, we still do that these days. Restoring that image or otherwise deploying a thin or no image workflow. We still need tooling around that, just getting stuff out the door. Getting it in compliance, one might say. RMM stands for Remote Monitoring and Management, which I'm combining with orchestration for when you need to do maintenance en masse. And of course, VPP and DEP are more important to more and more of us when it comes to modern ways of doing management. And making packages as necessary, along with software installation and updates is big. As is an interface to request people to install that software. They can possibly request other software or perform ad hoc tasks, possibly. Now, we used to use managed preferences quite a lot. We've been moving away from file-based management to configuration profiles as one aspect, but there are per user and less easy to manage things, so we need tooling around that as well. And finally, when we're encrypting machines, we need a workflow around escrowing the recovery key, otherwise managing it if it's an individual, it's institutional key, ongoing capacity, licensing management, and we think inventory, auditing, reporting tools are critical to have as well. Since we're kind of talking about disparately different things in certain cases, or places that you can't really go one-to-one with its model, we came up with 3 pieces of criteria for you to use when judging each round. Okay, I want you to actually grade each round. There's 5 of them, these 3 pieces of criteria. Within yourself, you can decide. So, which presents the overall better admin setup experience? How easy is it to get up and running? Which has more customer-facing benefits? What actually delivers that value to the people who make the money at our organizations, considering we can be considered a loss leader in some cases? And who has the lower ongoing maintenance load for upkeep? Everybody understand the rules of the game? Check for weapons. Ready? Let's go. First set of tasks. Arriving at the SOE, the standard operating environment. When we've ingested a computer fully into it, it should have our management tools, a set of applications that we've decided are critical for people to get the job done. We would like them to use domain accounts, all wrapped in the security for our organization that HIPAA requires or we opt into, because we really want to make sure that our customers are protected in that way. When I came on the scene at my current job, there really weren't that many tools in use. They weren't imaging, they made bespoke, handcrafted special snowflakes in Portland, locally grown. So we could skip deprogramming them from Golden Master Imaging and could go straight into what some might say better practices. The jobs involved with the SOE are making a modular image in a repeatable way, and we still do image mostly because it's actually faster than installing the Office suite to lay the image down. Waiting for all that stuff, we decided it was not worth the time at scale, and we could keep up with it better that way. Even if we're thinking of pointing customers in 2016 Office to the Mac App Store once it is released, that's 700 megs per product. for PowerPoint, Excel, and Word. We often need to migrate previously used machines. Sometimes those people were admin and put some things that we just want to start with a clean slate. So we want to restore that image in a bunch of flexible ways, but even take into account there might be cleaner workstations out there that will just move around the home folder and get a good foundation back underneath them. To start out with imaging, create user package by Per Olofsson, a GUI app to create your local admin as a fallback for our admin groups coming out of AD. We take a base bare image that AutoDMG makes for us, nothing in it the moment a new Yosemite app or OS 10 install app comes out. We go ahead and make that, yay for the Unified 10.10.4, in the AutoDMG GUI even, it's no problem. With our fastest I/O machine, which is the Black Mac / Darth Vader's Bong, takes about 15 minutes. Then we have a template that we just update for each version of the OS, or if we need to include Outlook, we'll throw the newest version of Outlook in there. And AutoDMG, with its update profiles, the community has collaborated on what patches does that image need out of the door. A lot of times it comes along with a Safari or an iTunes or some other type of patch. And updating it takes like 10 minutes to cook, and you're done. We then update a Deploy Studio workflow. So we have pre-existing configs I built from scratch, but then we just need to tweak them as time goes on. We name the updated one with the month of the newest image, the last time we cooked one. For testing on newly released builds or old ones that the hardware doesn't support or anything, we have this way that the build step task is a separate workflow. We can nest these things and have that type of flexibility. I'm not really going to dive into DS, Deploy Studio, or how Monkey bootstraps machines or configurations like FileVault 2. But to keep it simple for now, we just in DS prep Monkey configuration management tool. We use Puppet. We have just Chillcode's tool Outset. Performs the first boot task for us, so we have one tool for that and other things which I'll talk about later. Deploy Studio names the computer and preps us for binding to AD, and we happen to use firmware passwords as well. We update the images a little more than once a quarter, rotate our binding password regularly, install, and all of our tools just allow that to happen very easily. Deploy Studio goes in version control for its workflows. We know when something's changed. We can roll back as necessary, and Deploy Studio is maintained often enough, we can take some of the curveballs thrown to us into account. A lot of this stuff is net boot based at this time, especially when we're migrating somebody into management. We'll boot them up and throw a create OS 10 install package if they're on one campus, or we'll just use a drive when they're on others. And then I have a tool that I made for migrating an AD account, but some people have put workflows around that into Deploy Studio, where we convert the local home to an AD home. And Monkey allows us to make sure that when we deploy a new machine, it's got the quality assured software on it. Nothing goes on it except the version that you need, which happens to be approved for the organization. So out of that entire SOE that I just got through in a ridiculously brief amount of time, it is actually about less than a half-hour process on average after we go through a little paperwork with our network team. And really the hardest part for them is finding a wired network connection and getting in touch with me because I have a few moving parts, but those are all either automated or automatable, where I get them secured for talking over the WAN. And when people are migrating, they just let me know when that is done as well, and I get them secured. Our doctors, teachers, other IT pros in our organization see a fast, efficient process, if I do say so myself, with almost all of the settings taken care of. There's very few setup steps they actually have to go through. And maintenance-wise, AutoDMG is very versatile, light years ahead of what we were using previously, or all of the modular image tools, when it comes to ease of use for new people trying to understand how things work. Apple releases their patches or whole new installers, and it's not that much to keep up with. Deploy Studio keeps pace with things like Fusion drives, or the NVMe interface that allows the Metalbook to function with its other component compromises. Certain inventory systems are still having issues recognizing those hard drives. Deploy Studio is well understood. It's been around since before Mike Bondic retired Net Restorer, those that might remember that. Since Monkey's laying down the apps, only the most stable versions, but it's also just with auto package. What do I got to do? I got to promote things to production, and then the image will actually see it when it's being bootstrapped. It's a very low maintenance prospect. Now what do we got over here?
So we're going to talk about creating this OSDMG. Now there's one app within the Casper Suite that can really be likened, if I can go the right way, it helps, can really be likened to Marmite. Now this, this is probably the product you guys have got, but the tagline is you either love it or you hate it. And I know that Composer has definitely got its distractors who are quite vocal. But I say in this instance, so if you've got Composer, you can run it on your Mac, connect another Mac to it, like a never booted, brand new Mac that's got a fork build maybe, plug in a lightning cable, create an OSDMG there with the recovery partition that you can just push out and deploy. Because that can be really handy for you. That's certain maintenance tasks that are supposed to help, like clearing cache, repairing permissions, when it builds this image. But the idea is if it's a machine that's you haven't touched yet, you shouldn't really need to do it, but it just does that for you. You can grab that OSDMG and you can run with it.
Hardware specific DMG?
If that's what you need.
That's what
Occasionally, we all get forked by Apple.
Just a matter of time.
Alternatively, we also have Casper Admin. Now, Casper Admin, since, I'm not sure which version, because I've been using the product for about 7 years now, but you've been able to put in the 10.5 and 10.6 installers that we used to be able to get from the dev portal and throw them up there and let it do an install across the network, like the CoreOS 10 install PKG. So we've been able to do that imaging with a dynamic kind of installs. But that does take time, and our imaging process isn't particularly that quick, but you still want to save some time in some areas. So instead, you can get that app, either the old 10.5, 10.6 installer PKG or the new macOS 10 installer apps, throw them into Casper Admin, and then you can compile a configuration. And that compiling gives you an OSDMG the same as AutoDMG. It's just going to take a little bit longer because you're going across the network. Once you've got these OSDMGs built, or you've got your base OS, you then put that into Casper Imaging. And Casper Imaging can run off a netboot image, run off a NetInstall image. You can run it off of a USB disk. You can also image machines locally using target disk mode imaging. So you've got multiple different ways that you can push this image down to machines. And this is our imaging workflow. We have 1 or 2 DMGs. This is only half of the workflow, so yeah.
I have 24 steps in the monkey bootstrapping, just for comparison. Just going to throw that out there.
Maybe we want to be more.
I have a different environment.
We might want to be more inclusive in what we deliver. That's what I'm saying. But when a new OS comes out,
dish it out. Take it.
So when a new OS comes out, all you do is just swap out that OSDMG. Yeah, done. Now this is the second
We
part.
needed a scroll. Sorry.
So these are all of our PKGs that I installed as well. And these we can just swap in and swap out as we need, and it's overly modular, just knowing that I can move it in and out, move it as I go. If we want to do like a no imaging workflow, it's quite simple. We just don't tick the box to erase the target drive, and we can remove the OSDMG. So you can still have that kind of no imaging workflow if you do have full builds. That's an approach that you want to take. And whichever method you do, you can load up Casper Imaging, you log in with your AD account, and it will then use, the JS is intelligent enough to point it to a local resource. So you're not going to be dragging packages across the WAN. So it's quite cool. It can be a lot quicker there. And it's really scalable. And the actual method itself is reproducible. Reproducible?
The same difference.
Yeah. Now,
We know what you mean.
spot the error on this slide. But
that's my fault.
I don't image most of my Macs myself. We're in a distributed environment. I've never worked in an office I've never worked in a single office. So currently we've got sort of like 15, 20 offices globally, 10 of which have got Macs in there. We've got guys who image Macs, but they might only image a Mac once in every 30 machines that they image. So we needed a process that was quite simple that they could follow and that they knew would work and they'd be comfortable in doing. So these are the steps. Boot a Mac into NetBoot, log into Casper Imaging with our AD account, choose configuration, tick erase Macintosh HD, tick restart, click install. That was the bit I screwed up.
My bad.
And for this, it takes a 2011 13-inch MacBook Pro on a 100 meg network, because we've got a gig network to desk, and then it's 100 meg off the phone. But it takes about 90 minutes, the whole imaging process. This is an old spinning disk machine. But the guys know that But this takes technicians about 5 minutes to do this step, but they can build it on at desk, and they know that users can then log in with their AD account and everything's working for them. So these guys who are really PC literate techs are the ones imaging our machines. We have HR creating our AD accounts. I just can't start the build. And it seems to work really well. And really, it does come down to being simples. Now, there's literally two of us, David and Henry will probably get this as well. That's a Russian meerkat.
Just so you know.
Yeah. Simples meerkat, you'll figure out the story. So, alternatively, if you've already got an established environment and you want to get these machines into your JSS, if you have SSH access to them, you can run recon and do the enrollment, and that enrollment will get them into the JSS. And when they're enrolled, you can do certain things like you can run a policy that runs post-enrollment. They can have self-service pop up automatically, which means they can go in and install bits of software that they want.
That's all you said.
Yeah. Or even like, so you could remotely install the JAMF binary on the machines by enrolling them into the JSS, have them bound to AD, have the machines renamed, all remotely for a policy. And that's on your existing environment. Just quickly to push out. Now, this all comes through from your JSS, which is like the brains. And because the JSS is an MDM, we can leverage depth, if that's something that's applicable to you guys in your environment. Which again changes the way we do the imaging, but you still have that post-enrollment workflow where you could do something. So someone could grab a machine out of depth. This change is coming up in El Capitan. They'll grab a machine out of depth, they'll log into it, it will enroll into your JSS, and then again, self-service could pop up, or some workflow could be kicked off automatically through the JSS.
If we didn't cover it previously, device enrollment program. Pardon me. Apple's device enrollment program is the DP. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead. Have the things fall from the sky. This is his big point, if you didn't notice.
The thing, so if you are on the imaging is dead cam, and I know he's doing the talk now, isn't he?
Yeah.
You can go through the depth route, or you can just boot into your Mac login locally and enroll through the JSS website. And again, so it's the MDM, you've got the profile delivery, all that is within there. So recon depth and manual enrollment, I keep saying, can all run this post-enrollment trigger. Other settings can be done, giving you quite a light touch to even get your existing machines onto your new management system, or you can go through the whole rebuild route, or you can go for local imaging. You have options. And this is all using the suite and the packages and stuff that you've brought into.
And continuing in that theme of tools that he's very enthusiastic to tell you about. Yeah, so here's where we get into some real challenges for open source, because we're playing in Apple's sandbox when it comes to before Papin Bruyen cracked the code with IMAS and OpenMDM's open source servers. There are open source MDMs, but they just don't seem to have the same type of wellspring of involvement behind them. enterprisemac.bruyen.com is where you want to go to read about that. So you might think that we're kind of out of the picture, but there's still actually enough issues for developers that you don't necessarily need to still, in most cases, worry about, hey, this is Mac App Store only. I need to use VPP. Now we have managed distribution. You know, Apple's solutions evolve over time to meet more and more of our needs, while they might be moving away in some ways. But still, some have also found the DEP workflow incompatible enough with Macs that it may just be a non-starter. And I'm just going to concede a lack of open source tools for those purposes. Another challenge is when you want to provide assistance over the WAN, you kind of need something that is registered out there and has great uptime for them to proxy through, essentially, for you to provide remote assistance. There's not many other of these free or open source tools for that either. It's like Google Hangouts has some of this type of functionality, but you're paying Google in one way or another, usually, when that happens, and it makes Richard Stallman cry. Now, he is a bit nutty. We worry about when we're going to bring in vendors versus when we're going to actually have control over the entire solution. I hope that we're all not hardline free and open source people, because then it's not much of a debate. But also, if you're also hosting all of the email for your customers, I feel bad for your weekends and families. You know, people really want to get their email. I'm just going to focus on getting tooling for remote monitoring and management, which is to say reaching out and touching your fleet of machines and pulling back maybe inventory data. Also something I refer to as like orchestration, when you need to guide a bunch of machines through a change. And like Apple Remote Desktop, yeah, okay, so neither free. Some people might have issues with it, but just when it comes to getting set up on clients, this is there by default. SSH, when it comes to a client, is there by default. DNC and Deploy Studio can give you access, among other things. So getting that into place is not that hard. Installing a suite of clients, like Puppet Labs is now doing an entire suite of open source as well, that mCollective is bundled with Factor and Puppet, so you can get all that together. I'm just going to highlight 2 open source tools in particular. So Puppet Labs makes the Marionette Collective, or mCollective, or MCO. It is known by many names. But that is a orchestration tool, one might refer to it, and cluster SSH. So people possibly can't see the ridiculously small text. That's not the point. I have 2 host names, 2 hosts, and 2 login names even. This is just the quickest and easiest example of CSSHX. This Perl script opened up these 2 windows for me, and that's my control window at the bottom. Easy peasy as SSH is. Yes, it's command line, but oh man, it's freaking awesome. You have different logins over here. You can control each of those individually, and then you can send your keystrokes to both at the same time. Isn't that friggin' awesome? I'm a proponent of the tool. It's Perl. You have full, for the people who are really into Vim, full keystrokes. It tries to hijack Control A, but other than that, you're okay. It's in one instance, I used it to SSH to a whole bunch of things, and then SCP off of my local workstation to those machines and had them apply things, and DDoS myself. It's just quick and easy and fun for those times where Apple Remote Desktop just controlled the machine but can't send Unix command. Isn't that great? Like, you just share, you can continue to share this. Anyway. mCollective, on the other hand, it's a bit more trickier. Some might call it just like a bear to set up as a server-side message bus. ActiveMQ is one of the more popular backends to it. This is definitely complex. Not many people actually actively have it running in the real world that are already proponents of Puppet. The point is that you look at a tool like that when you're looking for a model of how do I stop the stampeding herd of machines? How do I efficiently, over the WAN, UDP, really lightweight communication, be able to send commands, get things to check in is one of the use cases that Puppet Enterprise uses it for. So I only talked about 2 tools, so this round is a little bit on the bear side from my side of the fence. But cluster SSH X, right? So it's 10. Allows real parallel operation. That's reliable. It's as well understood as an SSH session. You get the full richness of the command line. mCollective allows you this over-the-WAN capability of ad hoc things getting fired off. There's times where you need to lead things through a change a config file, update a config file. mCollective is a great way to get through the mud of slow internet connections. And you can also, because of the way the tool is designed, chop your fleet up into chunks to apply a little bit at a time. And when it comes to DEP and VPP, some people find you ain't gonna need it. I don't know, like, why MMV, right? Apple has been kind enough to not validate receipts on the iLife suite, on the iWork suite, that since they come with new machines, you can pull them into a management system and distribute them out. Again, this is like, as Joe Chilcote said about licensing and VMs of how many you're going to run per host. The less you care about EULAs, the easier it gets. DEP hasn't really sold as many admins on the concept because less people leave their laptops in cabs when they go out at night. I don't know. I've actually had someone leave it at security, but while Meraki is no longer a purely free MDM, there aren't many good substitutes besides paid vendors. I'm just not necessarily universally sold on VPP and DEP for Macs. MDM, sure. We actually want to get MDMs into the picture. A remote monitoring management tool like BombGuard, GoToMyPC, all these other vendors, they do help you in a pinch. But I hope that a lot of folks have it so that their management tools, Monkey and Puppet, the clients are checking in often enough. You can do ad hoc things often enough that you can clear whatever it is that's going on, besides them communicating over the network itself, even if they're not accessible over VNC or VPN. And as maintenance as upkeep goes, I mean, it's just SSH. That stuff does not break very often, especially if your management tools are in good shape. The only thing to worry about is that connection over the WAN when you need outside of your firewall access. mCollective by Puppet Labs might even be changing over time, so we might get some improvements in that front.
Okay. So, we talk about remoting onto machines. I'm going to call the aptly named Casper Remote. It's a very simple tool, but quite powerful in the way it leverages the existing JSS infrastructure. So, when you first open up Casper Imaging, Casper Remote, and you log into it, you can then select your clients, and their IP details are updated when they contact the JSS, which is between, by default, it's 15 minutes, and it's randomized by 5 minutes either side. So you should have pretty local, you should have pretty regular kind of IP addresses for your clients. And then you can initialize connections to them and run different activities. This is an SSH command that comes from your workstation to those devices. So we do have issues with regards to being off the WAN. And but this can use the management account details that are held within the JSS. So the JSS can recycle these passwords at a regular interval. So you don't know what the password is for your management account to manage your Macs, but you can use the tools to manage your Macs still without having to worry about that. And they can recycle that daily, weekly, however crazy you want to go with that. So various activities can be run through Casper Remote, including initializing a screen sharing session to deploying packages, scripts, printers, you can repair permissions, clear cache, you can do AD bindings. All the stuff that you've built and put into the JSS you've added for your imaging, you can then leverage the same stuff again through Casper Remote. So you don't have to have multiple tools that you need to figure out where the different bits are. You don't have to DDoS yourself.
Unless you really want to. Come time.
Yeah. They can also leverage the smart groups that you've configured within the JSS as well. And as that updates, it'll update the app, and then the whole thing is just kind of tied in quite nicely. When you're starting these activities, like I say, it's an SSH connection between your workstation and the clients, and then from there it runs commands through the JAMF binary. And the JAMF binary itself, there's a number of tasks that it has there which are meant to kind of make things easier for you. So these are some of the commands. Obviously, there's one or two. Some of them have been around for a while. Update pre-bindings.
Might be honest.
But 10.3, I think that was last probably needed. So there is a certain amount of legacy stuff in there. But the reason I bring this stuff up on here is because this stuff that is there, it can be used by the suite, it can be used to help you. So if I want to re-image a machine and rename it or do whatever, I'll use the commands from the product that I've paid for. So sudo JAMF set computer name -use serial number, because all of our Macs are named after their serial number because it's a really cheap ASIC tag because it's on the box. And it stays with the life cycle of the machine. You know, if the machine, from cradle to grave, the machine's going to be the same serial generally in the box, and it's quite rarely that happens.
Let's responsibly put that on. Responsibly put that on.
Now, yeah, and so people have told me that I'm not really doing this the proper way, but I got no regrets. Not even a single letter.
Yeah, Max Home on Twitter was like, yeah, you should use your management tools. Yeah. You're still going. Nothing outlasting.
That was smooth.
No regrets except
I thought it was a mic drop moment, to be honest. So, obviously, as we're using an MDM, We can leverage debt and VPP and stuff. So is that something that you can leverage? Then you can use all that as well. For the VPP, in regards to getting the software into your machines and things like that, fully supported for the VPP1 and VPP2. Hopefully with the changes in VPP3, it means that I can start using it, because it's quite difficult to buy software for someone whose machine is potentially in Hong Kong using a Hong Kong App Store license, and I'm pushing Hong Kong tied Apple ID, and I'm pushing out a VPP license from the UK. And they're changing the region.
If it ships. If it ships.
Yeah. This is definitely you now.
This is definitely.
Yeah. Sorry.
And if you're in Austria, SOL. So, now it's my time to come out guns blazing. This is my round. This is my time to shine right here. Start with packaging. So, bit of a mixed bag, but as a free solution goes, and there's a software development kit, and this is great software. There's packages by Stefan Sudro, both on the creation end, and you get to display a pretty GUI. It's a great tool for that type of experience. If you need to package stuff up, you can even drag drop .app bundles onto the icon, and it'll just package it up quick fast for you. I'm personally really into the Luggage. I don't know why, why is Make still around? But the fact that it operates on text files that can then be backed up and therefore shareable and version controllable. It helps if you ever come back to a project months later and you weren't quite sure how you did it. Now I admit there is a learning curve, but no more waiting through a zillion annoying GUI pains. Yes, that's a feature right there. However, between the Luggage dev mailing list when it comes to it, its difficulty, and the link fathers posts on packaging when it comes to packages, and MacTag magazine articles, managing OS 10, WordPress.com blog posts by Greg Nagel, the Bagel on package build. Stefan's older, but really comprehensive, missing manual, the package format. And I mean, come on, what a name, right? Installation, Lost Scrolls. I really thought long and hard about that. How is it? So the community, I think, really has you covered. And that's just the beginning. Because, as Greg implored you to check out AutoPackage last year, if you haven't taken a look yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I'm lucky enough to have some of my recipes used by more than a few people. So they tell me when I replace Word with PowerPoint, and now the 2016 recipe doesn't actually pull down PowerPoint anymore. Don't know how I did that. It puts me among 50 plus other authors with the distinction of being participants in the AutoPackage organization, as GitHub refers to it. It's not just these three folks, even though they are of legend. I get to use the word we about its development since I'm part of the organization. Even though it was originally conceived to automatically prep for the best patch management system, Monkey, it has been extended to support paid management systems.
Yeah, thanks for that.
With the efforts of Shay Craig, there's yet another piece of free, continuously developed and robust software, which makes the on-ramp to getting software into the JSS almost as easy. Don't think too deeply about the image in the slide, I can't really explain. Anyway, I talked about the Luggage and white box packages, but AutoPackage helps assure that I need to reach for those tools very infrequently, as it can fetch a software product or update and prepare it for you in the deployment system with folks like Anthony Reamer, even hooking it into Deploy Studio. So much has been said about AutoPackage. I'm just going to leave it at that. So much has been said about Monkey. I'm not going to be covering it much either. To paraphrase the famous words of Mike Tyson, my defense is impregnable. I'll give you a time. You got it? Everybody's right. Everyone's absorbed the snark. That wasn't me. I'm setting Tim up the bomb, aren't I? Sorry. I've even got a year's head start when it comes to other software management, Apple software updates. Here's the link if people, I might as well plug myself again, why not, to last year's talk on Reposado as a software update service. And as a further preemptive strike against Ben in that talk, I covered how JAMF contributes to open source themselves. Isn't that great? They're such good stewards of their project by not having updated it since last year. This first foray of theirs, I believe was their first foray into GitHub. It actually bundles Reposado and may contain nuts. Spoiler alert, you know, there was a post about how earlier in this year, if you do disable automatic updates, that you're therefore not seeing certain things come out, and Reposado has a fix for that, especially if you're then going to load updates into Monkey to have those be invisible to your clients. But I'll have this as a link on the handout. Pardon me for just brushing over it. Something I'm happier to promote is the use of Margarita versus the NetSUS interface that JAMF has. It's in Python. I'm a little bit happier about it. And it is a web GUI on a software update service that's very easy to interact with, and it follows the model a little better of how you're going to interact with Reposado as a service. Jesse Peterson? Hey, that guy. Yeah, in this room. So not only web GUIs, we have Objective-C GUIs, and this is best as a learning tool. It does not contain all of the options of Monkey. There are things that you would want to go outside of Monkey for at those files, or if you have some other type of product that's managing your Monkey server. Or if you need to get your software update metadata into Monkey. This is another tool by Hannes Utilanian that allows you to export those things. You can even get at the packages, although Jesse contributed an update that therefore you can download an update from your Margarita console to get right at the contents of your software update service. I'm glad I almost researched. I was like, oh wow, it's a good thing I'm going back through all this stuff. And the thing about loading this into Monkey is that Managed Software Center as Monkey's front end presents that great GUI if you need to unceremoniously kick clients off because they haven't applied a security update and they actually need to reboot their machines. This is where you get that metadata to say, hey, it's an Apple update. I'm not even necessarily delivering the update. Maybe you're getting it from Apple directly, but you need to install it by a particular time.
What's the name of that?
SUS Inspector. It is on the handout. Isn't that kind of sweet? Now, maybe it's not so much like a for that I want to be here as against, because there I so much ungainly jiggery-pokery on how admins of other systems need to notify their customers, get the software in, get it applied, where the rubber meets the road, right?
That's Apple talk.
And, I mean, it's just like they do arms deals, it's global political warfare just to get them to actually apply that. And they have to do this fair amount of custom dev anyway, with these brittle mechanisms, and trying to load a DMG in, it's totally required. Okay, so, I mean, the software vendors themselves don't necessarily make it easy. There are so many design decisions, however, in Monkey for just Adobe products. You know how much of the code base just applies to Adobe? Can't imagine the amount of hair that's been pulled out of that. And with Monkey, we have phased rollouts of well-vetted software. You don't know the heat I took of that thread on JAMF Nation where I said, really? You guys have no actual groups of testing and staging and a waterfall process to bring people to just waterfall, just like moving things. The Brand X, I mean, it just doesn't build that into the design. I mean, they're still using my workflow. Anyway, Unclench. So, a quick trip to AutoPackage. You need to do something custom. You can roll it up quickly with the Luggage. You immediately see the bill of materials. The turnaround time to your customers is way more expedient than tappa and certain less optimal packaging apps or PHP tabular interfaces. AutoPackage taking care of itself is great. Reposado being able to hook up to a notification service, like I recently blogged about on ASP 548. Don't mean to completely plug those, but I mean, AutoPackage and Jenkins is something that I went over there. Only thing you kind of need to take responsibility for, is when you're pushing it to production. And all these things being open source means I could even get things automated to promote into production. The Simian web console for Monkey and management system does have auto promotion of Apple updates built into its design. So it's just another effort to replace yourself with a tiny shell script. Yeah, you're up.
So you can imagine me slightly dreading this round. But I need to get this out of the open.
Hey, he lives life.
I'm saying there are so many misconceptions of the product. I just want to quickly go through Composer on this. So the problem misconception is it's just used for snapshotting. If you're creating packages using snapshots, stop it, you're doing it wrong. Simple. When you load up Composer, this is probably where the misconceptions come from. It offers you the snapshot options. Now, some of these are valid for actually for doing certain activities. I use the monitor file system changes, which uses FS events to create a snapshot when I'm troubleshooting. So you can then have A/B comparisons between the files that are modified, or see what this crazy installer is doing. There are times when it's coming really handy. So you can use it for that, but don't use it when you're building packages. You click cancel to this, and you get this pane here. And what you do, you've got your app installer, you just drag it from your applications into a Composer, and there you go. You can create your...
You see, Sam, that's all you need to do.
But how do I know that's all I need?
You just click cancel when it opens.
I love the enthusiasm there.
Sorry.
So,
I told you this is my round.
I don't need any help to lose this round. I'd say some other behaviour that's a bit weird in the suite. When you're deploying the PKGs or the DMGs, sorry, when you're deploying the DMG, it does an ASR. So if you upload a DMG that's got an app at the root, like the apps that you download for Chrome and stuff, and then you go and deploy that out, it will deploy it out to the root of the drive that you're deploying it out to.
So,
yeah.
ASR.
So, yeah, that's where the change comes in. I know that that's a faff, but I'm just putting that out there. That's the kind of happens with that. Now, another thing you can do with these DMGs, which people, it's another thing that divides opinion. You can fill user templates to fill existing users.
Oh, really? Can you?
Yes. You've heard of that?
Ah.
So there are times when you might want to do this. There might be certain apps that don't actually use PLIS. They use some random weird binary kind of file things for settings. This here is SAP GUI. It's their Java client that we have to use for some people. So we deploy the settings out. And you can see here, it's in my home folder, live preferences SAP connections. And within there, it's all the connections that the client needs, so that when someone loads it up, they get the connections they need to whatever SAP systems they connect to. That's about my knowledge of SAP, to be honest, so if you've got any questions, I cannot help. But I've been doing this for years in this way. You may well be an unfeasible method with El Capitan and SIP, but currently it still works. And do you know what? No regrets again.
You knew this was coming again.
I'm using a function of the suite of the product that I'm paying for, and it works. No, nothing's blown up. Nobody's died from it. It's yeah. And actually, certain challenges from Office 2016 might actually be overcome by deploying the registry DB SQL by using that feature.
Or using that.
Yeah. So this is going okay so far, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Everything's coming up Lumos. So let's get on to the term patch management. I know how much Greg loves this term, especially when it's put towards Monkey. Yeah? I still get by with actually using the JSS, the suite's kind of method to do package deployment. I create my DMGs or PKGs, upload them to the JSS, I create a smart group, I cache them onto my clients, they get a notification, and once a week they log out, do the install, and they get to moan the same as the Windows guys that they're installing update 1 or so many. But it works. This works for us, and this is using the suite. But I will admit, really, I win this round, to be honest, with you guys here, and when there is a better tool out there for us. And I know JAMF was saying they're going to fix it, but as it is today, as I'm trying to argue this point, I have to concede this round, to be honest. Now, you can get to...
This is not an intervention, it's okay. He came through this of his own accord.
So you can bring in some of the functionality and some of the stuff that is out there into the JSS. You can start with Auto Packager, which, I mean, thanks to Allister for starting off with the JSS importer. That's the, she's kind of made work. And for there and Eddie and the guys, a massive thing. They also beat me at the MacBrains hackathon. I'm not like, yeah, I almost didn't put it up there just because of that. But if you're using Casper, you should be using this. It takes 15 minutes to set up and you're done. I mean, I've got 20 odd distribution points globally, and it just sets up and works, and it's great. And yeah, just use it. Now, that's all great to get the software that you need into the JSS, but if you want to deploy it, how are you going to deploy it? Like I say, I've got my custom method that I'm going to blog about soon enough. And kind of to Alistair's point, there's a few of us making these custom methods. So we have AutoDMG Magic from Elliot, and also Pachun from Lapland Stewart. And then these two, again, are trying to bridge that gap between the functionality of the JSS and a product like Monkey. There's another one coming out, which you might hear about at Nexus 7 as well, probably, but it's all ringing true to the point of paid for a solution, yet we're developing our own to do a part of it. So, and after this round, I just feel like I'm back in New York, you know?
Hey, I have nothing to do with it. I mean, the white belt hipsters in Williamsburg is plenty to do with that. So, the full-blown MDM that Ben was touting should actually be taking this round as well, right? I mean, configuration management, the push notification service is pretty damn reliable. In comparison to the singular type of tool that an MDM is, the one spec to rule them all, that all of these vendors kind of have to abide by, even though there are some ways that they can use their experience in poorly maintained and poorly implemented task solutions. There are lots of other tools in this space for configuration management, traditionally. I mentioned Puppet when I was talking about M-Collective. Chef and other open source tools are getting into this space where applying a profile, doing file-based management, going through the APIs, because once you're on the machine with an agent, it's not that hard to actually make them run, aren't that difficult. Puppet had extensive Etsy auth modifications built into the core functionality of the tool. Don't use those now. They were on the old method and still there in core. But for per user and harder to maintain things, there's these periodic things that we can pull out of the tool chest, like Joseph Chilcote's Outset project, not only at first boot when I get them on the machine usually, but also every login. So your SAP GUI, I wonder who owns that file that your SAP client is using when you deploy it like that. And there's also the login script plugin by Per Olafsson. Authorization plugins got a big shout out yesterday, entire session. So please do watch that video. It was not Tom and Jerry, it was Tom and Jeremy who presented on that. We went with Puppet because we have a lot of potential for growth, but it also helps build the rest of our infrastructure. The rest of our tools are easier to approach because there are modules released in the open for us to build. Monkey Web Admin, Nate Walk, and Vincent Ranchan collaborated on that. That's open. I used with Django. It's okay, you didn't need to pay attention for me to call you out. It was with Vincent, wasn't it? Or was it Bruyan? Anyway, so you did my netboot as a Puppet module. It was the other Nate Walk, I'm sorry. So, anyway, not only does it, using these DevOps tools, help us build our infrastructure, we're now buzzword compliant. So that's very important to the enterprise. Another point about Outset, just so you can find it, It has the further flexibility. It can just happen once, or it can enforce every login. So that's a configuration that's being managed at login time before anything else gets set up. So something that I don't particularly like is that profile-based management is now kind of an all-or-nothing thing. Certain settings that you're putting in a home folder, you can't let end users modify after the fact. At least I have not broken it down as well as Patrick Fergus, among others, to figure out exactly what the magic incantation is in sometimes. And wow, fill user template, fill existing users, you really had to bring that, I feel dirty. Similarly interacted with during login when you need a little bit more power is login script plugin. It yells first, like an overexcited YouTube commenter, before anything else runs. After it accepts that password, your script is running. That is pretty hot. You just need to kind of make sure the home folder's there. There's a few other caveats, things you need to put in place that makes it things break. That's why skilled operators are always in demand. You just need to approach it with caution. With great power comes great responsibility. Now, Managed Software Center, this is its new icon if people were not familiar with it, even though there was that presentation this morning. Monkey can push configuration profiles. It can update configuration profiles in place so you have that history of what you applied in the past. Being able to actually version control things instead of being in this web GUI, and once you make a change, I wonder what happened. Oh, you can go through the auditing logs. Yes, that's a great way to be able to deal with that. Tim Sutton originally paved the way for people that were still using MCX for management and uncovered certain options, some of which have degraded over time as Apple changed their management API, but this was a great way to say, I was using Workgroup Manager on 10.10. What are you doing? Oh my god. Anyway, I used to use MCX-based management. I'd like to move to profiles. How can I get in between here and there? And something even, if you don't have the latest monkey, if you don't have other ways of getting things out there, if you don't have a paid solution, and you just want to roll that profile into a package, Graham Gilbert collaborated with Tim on this. Puppet, which essentially RuchiBox, can do practically anything on a Linux or a Unix system. As the Google guy said, some people might consider it a virus. I would consider it, a benevolent dictator. The other nice thing that you get for free with it is a certificate authority. This is when I don't go off script, right? Unlike certain folks who really like spinning up their own CAs, they're really into making their own bespoke SSO providers. I just like something that actually delivers that package for me. Then with that CA, I can sign the configuration profile. Another project that just came out 2 days ago that Nick McSpadden pushed up?
Last week.
Was it last week? I thought it was very recently. Regardless, he'd been working on it for a bit. He has made it so that you can sign configuration profiles and encrypt them very easily. If you have settings where you want to go in and modify something that you exported from Profile Manager in a VM, you can then encrypt those things, push them out. And I like green check marks on my profiles. I don't know about you guys. It gives me the warm fuzzies, security, the warm fuzzies. Puppet is non-trivial to set up. There's a great series by Nick McSpadden about using Docker, about experimenting with other tools until you're comfortable with them. With tools like Docker, it's a lot easier to see what a working implementation is. You don't necessarily have to push that to production. It's like people say, works on my laptop. Well, back your mail up. We're putting it into production, right? Getting started with Puppet is actually not all that difficult these days. So you can start to wrap your brain around it if you want to use that configuration tools. He's got posts on Chef as well. Monkey and Outset are certainly not hard at all, in my opinion, to use. You can get going with a demo of Monkey in a box, very quickly. Outset, very easy to understand directories that you're writing to, and very little time to deploy. Now, taking the time to set up friendly defaults are what sets apart great admins from bastard operators from hell. I'm pretty convinced most of your customers would actually prefer to create value for your organizations rather than go through wizards or just run afoul of the rules when they didn't know that things were supposed to be configured in a certain way. when they won't necessarily wonder where that new app is that you deployed if you shove it into their dock with a post-flight script that runs docutil. And another thing Monkey is currently tinkering with is the idea of ad hoc tasks. You can let your end users clear font caches, and repairing permissions is really that important to some people. I guess that's freaking awesome. When it comes to upkeep, a well-configured and secured system means less help desk calls, more productive customers. You can spend your time being proactive rather than responsive. Monkey and Puppet can use actual versioning for what you deployed. You don't know how frustrating it is to have an MDM wipe away your settings, or not know when one of your coworkers changes a setting and you're not quite sure where it was. JSS Helper, I'm just going to give a shout out that people who are using the JSS and don't know about that, he did not plug enough in his presentation. So Shay Craig, Shay C. Craig? What is it? Shay G. Shay G. Craig, sorry, yo. Oh, you're a G, sorry. I can't make anyone care to put in the effort to follow better practices, but you can implement as much as you like. You can get started and then grow from there, and I bet you it will reduce the amount of effort that's required to have a safe and happy user base.
Okay. Config profiles. Come on, please. Remember, we're talking about MDM. So profiles have been encrypted, signed, delivered to your clients. You also have payloads available. The kind of profile manager, but the difference in scope with these is that you can also deploy user-level profiles, which is available in the other products at the moment.
Because you don't need it.
So if someone, for example, a VPN profile, someone logs into their Mac, we scope it via a smart group to anything from model type of MacBooks. So they're going to be portable users. They log in, they get a VPN profile delivered, and the username is then filled out using their username, because we can also use the variables available in profile delivery to an MDM. So there's a slight reason to that question I asked you earlier, Greg. That was why I wanted to clarify that term before I stood up here. Now, you can also create extension attributes which allow you to extend the inventory that happens when you recon a device into the JSS. And then you can use that to then scope your profiles and scope all the stuff that you need to go from there. So for example, years ago, I created an extension attribute, and this is 2011, with some lovely grep before orc. Just, I want to get that on screen.
Stop the insanity.
Allister slipped that slide in. But there was no point delivering a wireless profile to a device that didn't have a wireless card. I mean, obviously, it's a bit of a moot point now, because we all have wireless cards and stuff in there anyway. And I mentioned before, like policies on how you can install the software in that. Well, there are a number of triggers available which you can do it. This is kind of copied from the manual. If there's any particular section you're interested in, you can see there. But obviously, start up, log in, log out. Yes, they are using login hooks and log out hooks. Yes, we'll just gloss over that. Network state change, so the name changes, the IP address changes. Enrollment complete, which is the trigger I was talking about before. The recurring check-in, which is normally, say, 15 minutes, and it's then randomized by up to 5 minutes either side, so your clients don't slam your server. You can also trigger events via iBeacons, which is, I just don't know, really, if you know what I mean. They sound great, but anybody, I want a real decent real-world application for iBeacons. They just seem like a bit too IT, and we're trying a bit too hard.
I want one for repairing permission.
Right, so yeah, sorry. Now, obviously, in regards to self-service, we can also run the policies from here. So we've got our clear cache in there, which Allister's so fond of.
Oh yeah.
And different events. We actually do FS tab, so we partition our drive, so our users is on a separate partition, and then we use FS tab to mount it at the users part of the OS, so you can pave the OS part of the drive, and then the user base is preserved. And in doing so, we then correct their user permissions, part of the imaging workflow. But if something goes awry, we can still run it from there. And there's other tools within here, you know, repair permissions, kind of, you know, our users can quite easily do that, and they think they might have fixed something. There are some nicer tools. This one here, set screenshot locations. So we have guys that do a lot of concepting. And so what they'll do is they'll go online, they'll grab a load of images, but they don't want to have to drag them from the documents then to another folder. So I've got a little workflow on there that will allow them to choose the location that the screenshots get put in. It's just cool like that, they're engaged. People have come to us, they request this stuff, and we've been able to extend what we've got on there based on feedback from our user base. And also, the techs that I work with, they use some of this as well. So, for example, rebind Mac to AD. If a user runs it and the Mac to AD, it unbinds it, rebinds it, there's no problem, it's not going to do anything. They can run it all day long, it's not going to change anything. But we've got technicians, like I said, who are PC techs who are going to do some level of support. We've got like a cheat sheet tied against these self-service tasks that they can run on there. And it'd be quite handy for them because they don't have to particularly Mac literate, but they can still achieve this.
When's it?
Sorry?
When's it?
Yeah.
Oh, but no. Tell them what stop keychain prompts does.
Oh, well, okay.
Anyway.
It follows Apple's recommended documentation on the ability to. It empties the deletes the login keychain and gets rid of the local items keychain. It's no folder with the UDID.
Makes that prompt go away.
Yeah. It stops keychain prompts.
It's like raid stops the dead. Oh man. So this is the last round and the last chance for Ben to drink my milkshake. I must warn you, there will be blood. Taking it slow, starting with basic inventory like reporting and licensing. Monkey with admin. Great place to start. There's been forks that are very active with different features of them. Great thing about open source. This as a foundation by Greg Nagel. It's a pretty comprehensive implementation of a console. There's basic support for assigning a user to a machine and tracking software licenses. But a lot of people using Monkey Report PHP rolled up into the Monkey in a Box by Tom Bridge for all of the things that you might want to experiment with and or get running and going and poke with a stick. It may be easier to customize this. You maybe in certain places you may already have a PHP dev or a server team that can throw up a PHP app. I mean, I've just heard of it more often that PHP as a development platform, I don't know, some places use it, right? Looking at you guys. I personally prefer Graham Gilbert Sal, as it's in Python. There's ways that you can customize it that are built into the design, and it integrates with Puppet and Factor. Now, these aren't that hard to spin up. The same Puppet module that I used to set up Crypt by Graham Gilbert, I used to be able to set up Sal. The open source thing under the hood just got an overhaul, but I'm going to power through a little bit. Shout out to my friends at OS Query. Rock and roll, even though I have not deployed this as of yet. They're ridiculously responsive. A 2-week turnaround till it was not in nightly. It was in a released product. So if you want something super efficient at taking inventory, being able to get it on a whole bunch of clients without much of an impact. I mean, they only support 15,000 Macs and a lot of production. And you might think, I don't know, does Facebook have a lot of computers? Need a lot of servers? I don't know. Not sure if anyone wanted to. Now this would be the time when Ben asks the audience to believe in fairies so I don't kill Tinkerbell with all of my rage. You cannot migrate in or out of certain products. They don't take that into account. They released a way to escrow your key. You go to look at that key. The value is blank. There's no way to interact with it over the API. But to focus on the solution that I use, we have Graham Gilbert's Crypt client, and we've been able to customize that, put our logo on it. It does not look like malware. Our end users, therefore, will put their password into it. We can escrow their key. Staying with File Vault, the end users encrypt their machine, therefore. I don't wait for the encryption time of it then. Hey, I'm still encrypting. Please stay plugged into power. Okay, now I'm optimizing. What the hell does that mean? since they're the ones that are initiating the encryption in the first place, they only see their name at the pre-boot EFI login window. So that's kind of nice. We have that console of crypt server that they can go get their own get out of jail free card. Or text can request it. And I have actual access control on those keys. I can tell who saw it and when. Which means that I can roll those keys in response, and I don't need to do jiggery pokery to make this happen. Having all these inventory tools there, not only to tell you how well installs went, other than just spring and praying. I have also other data about, before somebody might have a full hard drive or a hijacked web browser. I have to keep going. Logging shippers like Logstash and Graylog are pretty awesome to have in the way of tools. But there isn't much to go when it comes to maintenance server side. Graham Gilbert had many customers reporting into his solution and did database maintenance 0 times, for example.
5 minutes left.
Damn.
This is going to go well. So, the JSS. The JSS itself is basically it's a WAR file that's runs Tomcat. You can cluster it, you can load balance it, you can build different configurations for the web front end that you want. The backend is a MySQL database. Now, in regards to the amount of maintenance that a normal JSS admin would have to do, normally you set up your backups. You set your backups up every day for the last 10 or something. And then after that, you might look at your log flashing. So I'm at 5. And this is the kind of optimization that would normally happen during a job start, which I know is another, we just leave that one at that. So this maintenance goes, the database just kind of runs along, and most of the time it just kind of ticks over, it's mostly okay. If anything does go wrong with it, I get on the phone to JAMF support, they give me some MySQL advice. And yeah, that's me, literally, I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh, sorry, no, that's not me actually. I'm a Casper certified expert.
You're a dean.
So, I still have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not a DBA, I don't want to be a DBA. I pay for support with JAMF, they support the database. Within the database we do have the logs and stuff that we can see, application usage, screen sharing, imaging, user location, which is quite nice when you're tracking the machine. If you have it tied to look into your AD, every time someone logs in, it will update the username and password of who's logged in, if you've configured it in that way, and then you can quite easily track and trace the machine to see the history of the machine, where it's gone. And we've used that a number of times with loaners where they've just forgot which loaner they've used. And then talking again about extension attributes. Now, these, like I said, can be used to augment the existing records, and you can use them for different reporting and things like that you want to run. And this one here is Extra Protect Check one. If you want to ask anybody about it, just
Please
ask
take
Allister.
responsibility for that.
That's Allister's EA, which is cool. And just say it doesn't have to just be scripts that you run on there. You can run it through a pop-up menu as well. So if you wanted testing in dev, which is maybe where you would kind of deploy a first set of packages before you move them to another level, you can do that. It's not built in by default, but it's not hard to actually change and add that. So
Yeah, your helper monkeys will go and set that manually on each machine. Great.
How many test machines do you need? Just sit in the database and it's there. Although, if you want to change it and do it remotely, you can go via the API. There's 2 APIs available, an Events API, which is a little bit crazy, and there's the REST API here. So you can update your extension attributes, work on tasks, and automate that process of getting those machines into that testing group. Now, Bryson, is he on?
Don't call me out, this man.
He set you up the bomb.
Oh wait, well wait.
Yeah, no. If you want a guide, if it's something you want to start looking at, look at Bryson's blog. The JSS REST API for everyone. He's got a couple of posts on there. They're really going to help you get started. He gives you examples between Bash and Python and stuff like that. So if it's somewhere you want to go, something you want to do, really just go and grab his info. Now, file 2. I don't use it. If I did use it, I'd end up encrypting the wrong partition because it's not a full disk encryption. If it was full disk encryption, recovery partition would work. it's full volume encryption. So if you have your OS on one partition and your user on another partition, and you enable firewall 2, you've encrypted your OS. And all your user data is not encrypted. So I don't use it, but I need to talk about it. So obviously, I would have done a bit of Googling, or just went to Richard's website. I didn't do a bit.ly link because you all should know this site if you're doing anything firewall related. And then I was looking through some of the white papers on this. JAMF have a couple of great white papers and workflows that you can follow. And actually Rich has acknowledged within them as well. So it ties in nicely together. So, yeah, I'm kind of going through and trying to get some of this knowledge that I need for this. You can do the issuing of the recovery keys for the individuals and institutions. And you can also, it reports back the status of the encryption as well. So you can say if the device, you can then create smart groups with different policies, if a device is encrypted, unencrypted. If someone unencrypts a device, you can actually force it straight away to then start re-encrypting it, or within the next check-in, which normally happens in a few minutes. Or even if it's decrypting, you can then run another policy from that. Another option within the JSS, because it's an MDN, I thought I'd speed the slide this time, is that it can redirect the firewall recovery keys. So if someone encrypts their own machine, the recovery key will then be redirected to our JSS, so that we can grab that if we need to. And this is a profile that's available. It's an Apple supported profile. They've got a technical document on it, which Allister's followed for some stuff. And we're talking about licensing. So we can create license records that say if someone has Firefox any version, so if we've got Firefox the app, they go to a group and we can use that license, that information if you want. I just wanted to bring that in to show some parity between that and Monkey, WebAdmin or SAL or the others. I mean, this is all in one system. You know, the JSS stores it all within there. You don't need to have one for your firewall, one for your license manager and stuff. It's all just within the one.
So we are past time. So
Surprise,
I'm
surprise.
sorry. And nobody stood up to like actually move their seats and listen to their watches. If anybody actually has to go, we've got bops in a little bit, but I'm going to keep on rolling. Is everybody okay? Everybody's all right? I will not be upset if you walk on out. In summary, we have to pressure these vendors to suck less. Apple included. I'm only as glad to have all of the options at my disposal as I am with the fact that I can therefore deliver a better experience to my customers. And I have a better life in general. I can continuously improve as a sysadmin who wants to code, who wants to deliver good solutions. The win I wanted out of this session was to convince you to not wait for some vendor to wrap your job in a bow, or make you into a GUI monkey, or have your job title incorporate the name of a software vendor's product. We are sysadmins. Ben's obviously not sticking his head in the sand. You can also clearly see he's not exactly Best Buy mobile material. Intellectual curiosity is unfortunately something few of the representatives of our vendors exhibit. I'd love there just be more of us folks who actually do care about what's better and who actually want to get it done. I think I can count on you kind folk to join me in collaborating getting automating the dumb away, and I look forward to your support in our upcoming election. Thanks to Ben. Thanks to Penn State as always. Thanks to all the people who contribute to open source software. Thanks to the vendors who allow us to poke them with a stick. And thank all of you for your time and attention.
Well, you guys are going to clap then. It's my turn to say thank you now. But he's already said thank you to all of you. I'll just echo that again. So, honestly, guys, thank you very much for listening to us two prattle on. Surprise, surprise, we've run over time. We don't feel that. And, I mean, Allister has played the part of the pantomime villain. Again, that's another thing you guys might want to see. It's David Hasselhoff dressed as Hook. That's a slightly better image than the other David Hasselhoff one, and I honestly thought I'd be the only person with David Hasselhoff in a slide.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the only one that's showing from like the shoulders kind of area, really. But I knew that Allister's passion for the open source community and his somewhat outspoken nature would probably make this a little bit entertaining. Now, let's make it clear, I'm a fan of open source. This came out like last week, just on Twitter. Open source is free as in puppy. It needs to be maintained and supported. If you use the open source tools, contribute. Log, pull requests, log issues. I've got a couple of tools out there myself, and if nobody tells you anything, you don't know it's broken. You know, and put out there your use cases that contribute to using them. And really, because that's the key thing, they need to be properly maintained and supported. Now, the irony of me using a pay-for solution is actually because it's automated double way in a number of areas. It's given me enough time to actually invest in the free open source solutions, the stuff that I've kind of created myself. So it's that holistic approach, if we're going to be using buzzwords, can be quite beneficial in that way. But when you deliver something and have a pull request merged or funny something like, you are literally rocking out with your Spock out. If you maybe don't Google that one, if you know what I'm saying.
Stay classy.
You don't get the same thing if you have a defect close to a close solution. So you get a certain level of elation that's great when you're doing stuff. But at the end of the day, the whole thing is, whichever camp you're in, it doesn't really matter. All we want is for the people that we're delivering our kit to give us the thumbs up. That's literally it.
Time to vote. You guys have your worksheets. You scored each round.
Yep.
The grand total.
I have a plate.
Just show of hands. Who's on Team Ben? Who's on Team Freedom and America? Here's my people. Thank you, State College.
Who thinks there's room for both?
I don't think you colonials, really.
We just had creases, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you kindly.